G'day and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. In this video we are going to be taking a look at the Mycomancer Cavern and a quick guide as to how you can take it on at tier 8 or higher. Now it's located in Hallowfall. You can see the location on my map, currently 7131 inside a small cave. My gear for this is 607, but I started clearing it at about 589. I am a Demon Hunter tank and I have at this point my first part of my set bonus. However, as I mentioned, I did this at about 589. This one is actually fairly simple to do. You just have to really watch out for one particular thing. Now you'll see my Brann build. It's the same as I kind of always go, Amphoros Relic plus the Porcelain Arrowhead. But the big thing here is there's two scenarios. The first one has you face the boss first and then clear out enemies afterwards. The alternative one has you save pigs and clear out enemies first and then take on the boss. They are both very manageable and the enemies are the same across them with minor differences. The big management factor here is the spores. There's something very important to state. You will clear this dungeon if you just watch what is going on with the spores. You don't need to stun them, you don't need to do anything with them. What happens is the moment they hit 0, they will have a slight delay, stop still, and you should be able to just casually walk out of their range. Just constantly keep moving away from them and avoid floor hazards. If you are panicking, use a mobility spell, but if you focus on avoiding the spores, you'll be fine. Bog Piper is a very simple boss. He does Muck Charge, which you just want to move out the way of. You'll see a small cast bar underneath his name. Interrupt Swamp Bolts and just avoid the green sludge he leaves on the ground. He'll also spawn spores, which will be the most difficult part of the fight. Like you can see me here, constantly moving, just making sure that I'm avoiding the spores and their damage at all costs. Something that a lot of pro players or really good players will do is actually take advantage of the spores and use them to damage a lot of the mobs that you'll face. Once that begins, you will then start phase 2, where you'll briefly ride a pig in this scenario, and then basically after riding the pig and collecting the shards, you will then have to take on the enemies. If you're in the other scenario, you'll just have to save 10 pigs. Now these enemies are all fairly simple, but there's a couple that we need to be aware of. Firstly, the fungal rot caller, is not too great. He can basically cast Rotten Bolt. It does a fair chunk of damage, try and interrupt it. You then also get the bloated lizard, The big thing with this lizard is the pushback from the bloated explosion. So the lizard, when it gets below 50% health, will cast Bloated Explosion. You need to stun this or prepare yourself to be knocked back from your position. Make sure you avoid any mobs. Then we have the particularly bad guy. This only appears in the scenario where you face Bog Piper first. In the alternate scenario, you will instead face Fungal Spear Tenders. Both of them are fairly simple. The particularly bad guy will cast a fear that you want to avoid, whereas the Fungal Spear Tender will cast an AoE cone that you want to avoid. You'll also want to be careful of his battle cry. In terms of the rest, it's all actually pretty straightforward. The Gnarled Revivers are very similar to the Fungal Rock Callers, except these have a little pull effect that they can cast on you, and a little pushback effect that you will need to be aware of. Aside from that, there's nothing too crazy with them. The lashes that you pull throughout the stage, you can be a little bit careful of how many you pull, but generally speaking, they too also are not something you need to worry about. In this scenario, instead of facing a boss, you simply talk to Alec, and you'll be done with the scenario. In the alternative one, because you didn't defeat Bog Piper, you'll have to face him then, but it's actually pretty simple. All in all, Mycomancer Cavern, once you get the hang of the spores, is really honestly quite easy, and it's one of the easier ones overall. If you're struggling with the spores, one thing I will state is you can use a stun ability to lock your enemies and the spore in place, causing the spore to damage them, and then giving yourself a much better avenue towards success. But that's it from me. See you guys next time. Till then, take care, stay safe, and bye.